Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio this evening, and thank you for joining me. I'm trying to paint this crazy three-eyed skull. You can see it in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. This is a Halloween prop that we use at my house, and every time I look at this, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. But I wanted to paint it and let you all see how I would do it, and maybe you could recreate this and come up with a freaky Halloween painting of your own. So let me go over some of the supplies that I'm using at the moment. I've got my King Art pointed round brush. It's a 9020 series brush, synthetic hair. I like these brushes very much. The paper that I'm using is Fabriano Studio watercolor paper, size 9 by 12. So that'll give you a general reference on the size of the drawing that I've done there. And the watercolor paints that I'm using are, of course, my M. Graham paints that I love to use in the studio. Absolutely love my M. Graham paints. I wouldn't be anywhere without them. So just to catch you up on what I have done, I'm doing this pretty wet at the moment, but I've entirely wet the skull. A little bit of sepia, a little bit of Payne's gray to give that dull gray color in there. And then I've just gone back and I've darkened it a little bit in the eye sockets, in the nose sockets. And now I'm going to start to paint a little bit between the teeth there. There we go. I've got some ultramarine blue in there, along with a little sepia, like mixing the two together, ultramarine and sepia. You can really get some nice grays by doing that. You can get some nice grays by using burnt umber and ultramarine also, but in this instance, a little darker, a little colder than that, I think. So thus the use of the sepia and the ultramarine blue, and just painting around the teeth as best I can. There are a few spots in here where the page is still a bit damp, and that color is going to bleed off just a little bit, but it won't be too bad. And you can see this this skull has two chins and two mouths, but they're kind of connected, and so they both work at once. I can't even look at this thing without getting creeped out by it. But I thought it would be a fun project to do, especially with Halloween coming up right around the corner. And at my house, we put up a lot of Halloween decorations, and my wife is really looking forward to getting this particular one back into the house. Okay, so the nose area there, actually most of the skull has pretty much dried by this point in time. So I'm trying to follow the reference photo there that was taken on a little stool in my studio. You can see it. I'm trying to follow that, but not too faithfully. Right, I've got some of that dark gray color. Again, ultramarine blue, a little sepia in there to make some dark. And then as we come over to the lighter side of the nose, kind of where there's a little bit more reflected light over there, I'm just putting a little bit of yellow ochre to show maybe the inside of that bone over there. It's much lighter, it's a little bluer, it's a little warmer and not so cold, so that a little bit of yellow ochre is really going to help to warm that up. And you can see in that nose cavity, it's got a sharp definition between the outside and the inside. That hard line really makes it look nice. Here's a little bit behind the jawbone. Just putting that on, and I'm going to go right up around the skull to try and add some shadow onto the back of this. Right, I want the skull to look pretty ovoid, pretty round. So I'm going to try to give it some 3D look. And then some of these bones are on the face are a little cracked and pointing out, right? The cheekbone, the brow ridges there. I'm going to paint those in so that they stand out just a little bit. You'll be able to see that as we go through. And here we are painting around the skull to give it some dimensionality. Now, as you're watching this, you're probably wondering why I'm doing a voiceover if I'm in the corner painting and you can see what I'm doing. Well, the question is, or the answer to that question is, I don't know. I don't have any idea why I started doing this without turning my camera off. I'm not even talking. If you look at me in the lower right hand corner, I'm not even talking to myself. I was sitting all alone in my studio listening to a podcast while I was doing this. So there was no way I was going to be talking at the same time. All right, on to the eyes now. So the eyes kind of come out a little bit. There are deep sockets in there, but they come out a little bit. So I've got to get it deep in the pits, make the center of that dark, and then lighter as I come out. So I'm trying to stick with that same general color scheme. A little warmer towards the one side, a little colder to the other side. The cold side has a lot of ultramarine blue in it. The warm side has a lot of yellow ochre in it. That's the third eye over on that side. That's the one that really gets me. Well, I guess that maybe it's the one right in the center that really gets me. That's probably what really does it. And here are just some yellow ochre around the edges. That middle eye is looking right at you, so it's got to kind of be warm all the way around. And dark in the center, push that way back. Yeah, you can begin to see how these eyes are developing on there and how the skull is starting to look. All right. And let's add a little shadow to the left-hand side. It always made me curious why there needed to be a top shadow on things to make it look three-dimensional, but for whatever reason that is, you do need it. Without it, parts of it look round or dimensional, and parts of it just look flat. So I've learned to put on a shading all the way around. And now I'm going in. This guy's got a lot of cracks and crevices on his skull, so I'm just going to drop in a few of those here and there. Divide up those chins. Not chins because he's fat or he's got big jowls or anything like that, but chins because there are two chins there. Let's push one of those back behind the other. Oh, it's starting to look weird already. This is a great Halloween project to paint. And for the ones who master the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial grade supplies. There's a little crack in that jaw there. I'm just trying to add in a few things that are going to make some ridges and some cracks and crevices in all of these bones. Right, I can just imagine the skull's been buried for 1,000 years or more, and somebody has just dug this up, and now they're wanting to document it. They've called me, and now I've got to paint this thing, and I don't want to paint it because it's so freaky looking, but I'm gonna do it. There we go. A little bit there, just the bottom of that jawline has some curve to it, so I'll paint that in. You can see that looks like it's more than just flat at the moment. And I'm painting around a few of the bones here, trying to layer on some color. I don't know what I'm doing. You can see me doing a little dance there in the corner. And I'm going to try. Oh, no, I thought I was going to add a little definition to the teeth. I'm going to darken that mouth a little bit further. I don't know if you've ever heard the story, but three-eyed skulls, their mouth cavity is always very dark in there. That's just how it is. I didn't make that up or anything. But that's just how these are. And I'm using the same basic colors. Again, some sepia, a little ultramarine. It makes a wonderful dark. Right, I could use black if I wanted to. I could use some kind of neutral tint if I wanted to. You get a lot more control with mixing the ultramarine and the sepia. You can make it a little warmer with the sepia. You can make it a little more forward with the sepia, or you can mix a little bit more blue in there, mix it a little colder, and kind of pushes it back into the painting a little bit. And now I'm going to just add some dark areas here. Maybe that's not like a crack or a crevice on his skull. Maybe it's just a little bit of an indentation. So we're going to put that on. I'm going to put that on in a number of different places so we can see what it looks like. And as I'm going around, I'm looking at this skull and it's cold, right? The color is pretty cold, so I'm going to add in just a small bit of yellow ochre, and that's going to help to warm these bones up a little bit, right? Some of this has still got just a little bit of color to it. It hasn't completely been bleached. Most of the time it's been in the ground, so the color hasn't totally seeped out of it. There's a little bit of mineral content in there. All right, still looking at darkening some areas of the skull here to give it, try to push that back into the background. The back of that skull, I want it to be as far back into this painting as it can get. Right, the contrast of that jawline with the back of the head back there really pulls the jaw forward and pushes the skull backwards. Oh, and look right under that orbital socket. Boy, there's a big hole right underneath there. Oh, he's looking creepy and scary. He's really looking creepy. There we go. We've got a cheek back there. Let's push that back. It is looking good. It's looking very good. And now I'm going to, just get on. I've got a much smaller brush now. I want to make a difference between the skull and the teeth. Right there, maybe there's a little line on some of these, and you can just kind of see where they meet up. So I'm just going to put just a little bit of color there, and if I have to blend that down just a little bit, I'm going to do that. But you can see, it just sets those teeth off. They're not connected. I mean, they're connected, but they're not the same as the bone of the rest of the skull. So that's a really good thing in there.
At JPMorgan Chase, we see the potential in people like Marcus Jones, the developer in Detroit.
All right, a little fiddly work in there. Tiny little brush. This is a number 2 brush. Again, these are my
That's why we're here. Revitalizing communities happen.
King Art brushes. I bought these as a pack. These are the 90-20 series, the pointed rounds. I really do like these brushes. I've been using these for about 2 years, almost 3 years now, and they haven't worn out. The tips haven't gotten a big crook in them. They've been wonderful brushes. They hold quite a bit of water, so I'm totally happy with these. All right, I'm going in and redarkening some of the cracks and sutures on his skull, wherever they need to be. Just a few of them here, a few of them there. Got about 40 seconds, maybe 50 seconds left in this video. So I just want to say, if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. I've got links to all social media down below. If you want to see something different painted, leave a comment down below. I had a great time painting this. I hope you all enjoyed watching it. Hope you come back for a video another time. Until then, thanks so much. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.